Core and founding value of the South African Constitution. It is by far this country's biggest or main conquest. Be that as it may, it is also one of our biggest challenges, because as much as we would like to achieve it, it is proving to us daily that it is not a natural or automatic phenomenon to achieve, and that it requires a lot of work, major mindset shifts, and the ability to question self. Maybe you guess what we're talking about. Well, if you haven't, we're talking about non-racialism, something that the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation is based on. And following the recent atmosphere of racial tension in the country, the foundation will host a workshop tomorrow at Matthew Goniwe School of Governance and Leadership. Joining us in studio now to tell us more about the workshop is the director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Neeshan Balton. Good to have you, Neeshan. Welcome again to Morning Live.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. I'm sure, just as I have, the comments and everything that's been going on around us since the dawn of 2016 has been quite devastating. I suppose has it come as a shock or not really?
I think the kind of intensity and the narrowness of the comments themselves and the kind of hurtful nature of the comments were perhaps unexpected. That racism is with us, we all know. But that it has assumed such a public presence is what came as a shock.
Yeah.
And the scale of it in early 2016, besides those that have been reported, there are probably about 20 or 30 other cases that have had some kind of a media presence of a smaller nature. And many others have not yet been reported as well.
Yeah.
So it would seem as if 2016 just started off with a heat wave and a melting of people's brains, but the inner kind of feelings and sentiments came to the fore, both black and white.
Yeah, the amazing thing is, I think everybody has been talking about this, and every single person. This is a conversation that's been held at every dinner table, at every holiday home, it doesn't matter where you are. I think everybody's talking about Penny Sparrow and what this one did and what that one did and what was said on television, what was said on Twitter, what was said on Facebook. It's almost like things have reached a boiling point, and they are now coming out, that people are saying things that they may have been saying behind closed doors, but now it's in the public. And maybe this is a very hard lesson for people to learn, that this is not the way you talk about people. Do you think that through all of this horrible, horrible atmosphere we've been having, that good can come out of it?
No, I think there's a lot of good that can come out of it. One, for me, is that for the first time, possibly after 2001, this country is actually having a prolonged discussion on racism. Secondly, as much as there are people who've been saying very racist stuff, there equally are, and perhaps even bigger numbers, who have voiced their opposition to it, both black and white.
Yes.
And for me, I think that is a hugely positive thing. The third thing is that many people are asking, what do we do to get rid of this problem once and for all? How do we deal with it? Now, there are no simple answers, but the fact that we're asking that question, for us, is very important.
Will we ever get rid of it, though? Is it possible, in all honesty?
I think if we had asked people who drew up the Freedom Charter in 1955 whether it's possible to get rid of the apartheid government, many would have said no. If you had asked the Rivonia trialists before they went to jail whether we would have freedom, many might have said no as well. So I think we must work towards it. It is something that we all agree is wrong. And if we agree that it's wrong, we must find ways of getting rid of it as long as it takes. And I think that is the point. Getting rid of racism is generational work. It requires work with current and future generations on a consistent and a prolonged basis. It's not something that's going to happen because there's some headline that says we're opposed to it, or there's some march that says we're opposed to it. As much as that is important, it is going to require that we understand the root causes and the manifestations of racism and tackle both of them.
It is vitally important. Do you think taking it to a level that perhaps political parties want to take it to, that making racism a criminal act, something that can actually land you up in jail?
I think, again, that's an important discussion for the country to have. In the course of that discussion, we think that we will find what are the limits that legislating racism can in fact amount to, but will also bring us to a point where we agree on what is it that we so despise that people must in fact be prosecuted for as well. Indeed. So we'll find the balance in the course of that discussion.
Let's talk about now. You talk about discussions. Let's talk about what's going to be happening at your talks. And I see that, please forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, Achille Mbembe.
Achille Mbembe.
Achille Mbembe. Yeah. Talk to me about why he's the best person to share his views and observations of the matter and subjects.
Well, Achille has written extensively on issues of racism, and particularly its post-colonial nature across the world. He is a renowned academic internationally. Achille is also a board member of the Kathrada Foundation. But Achille has been saying that in responding to racism, we must be mindful that we do not recreate forms of oppression as well, and that in finding our solutions to it, the root causes of that would need to be addressed. He spent extensive time talking to people across the country and students in particular about their issues. And his latest piece of writing has really been saying that tackling this, we must also take into account that there are people who would begin to look at how we respond to racism, but also the political opportunism that will come with responding to issues of racism.
Yeah, so he's going to be talking at the workshop. What else are you hoping to achieve, and what format will the workshop take?
You know, this workshop was essentially an internal workshop of the foundation. Somehow this became a fairly bigger workshop, which we welcome. And the focus of this workshop is two things. One is to get people who've been working with the foundation and all other interested people to help the foundation develop its own action plan. And secondly is a more bigger discussion on the National Anti-Racism Week that takes place in March from 14th to the 21st. We are a founding member of the Antiracism Network South Africa, and that network has dedicated, or it will be calling on the country to dedicate the 14th to the 21st of March to issues of racism. You know, internationally, March 21st is the International Day for the Elimination of Racism. Yeah. And that was brought about by the UN in response to the Sharpeville massacre. Somehow as a country we have not picked up on the internationalization of this issue, and neither have we focused extensively on racism in South Africa in a very dedicated way. So what this workshop will do is to generate a set of ideas which we think that the foundation, which we hope that the foundation will then be able to implement both in March and for the remainder of the year. Yeah. So it's really a gathering of ideas on how we respond to this. Because we think that is what South Africans are looking for, is what do we do practically to deal with the problem at hand.
Fantastic. Well, we really do. We support you in everything that you do, and we hope that we can pick up this conversation, especially when that first week of March comes up. And I know that that's the Anti-Racism Week, and we'll focus very, very extensively on that. Thank you for joining us here on the program.
Thank you very much.
And our regards to Mr. Kathrada, the director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Neeshan Balton, speaking to us about the workshop they will be hosting tomorrow morning at the Matthew Goniwe School of Governance and Leadership. The workshop is aimed at helping develop an action plan that responds to the recent and ongoing issues of racism in South Africa. Let's take a break.